I apologize in advance for any lag. Again, Wi-Fi is shit, and also this is a beefy mod pack. But this is where we are oh, hello. Twinkle, twinkle. This is where we are currently. I messed around with the settings as best I could, to kind of accommodate things, but we'll see how it goes. I love the footstep noises. Here. First off, I don't think I need that. I'll mess with it more off stream. I don't want to mess with it too much currently. Are there actual crows in the game? Or is that just like... Ha 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 ha. I remembered. Give me the rocks. Just sounds... Oh, sad. Oh, dudes. If you haven't seen already... Sorry, I like this song a lot. I highly recommend watching the video of me flipping my 6'1" friend over me. I keep shouting it out, because I still can't believe I did it. I'm 5'7" for reference, like a solid 5'7". I don't know where she lands, if she's like a solid 6'1" or if she's a little bit taller or what. I don't think that's how that works. I feel like that's a bad spot to go. But, shift click the rocks. Like when they're just on the ground. Not shift. Actually, hold on. I want to see. Can I beat the shit out of this chicken? Oh. Come here, buddy. Whoa. I'm gonna take... Oh. Is it just click them? Just right click? Oh! That's cool. Okay, thank you. Oh, yeah, there it is. I'm sorry. I need your meat to elongate my own life. Cool. You are not new, Semi. It's a baby. Hello, baby. Just a little baby. I'm sorry. My apologies. Oh, I am so apologetic right now. You can feel it in the air. Oh, oh my God. Jesus. What I'm not apologetic about though is this. Come here. Yummy. I love that every once in a while it sounds like I'm straight up punching you. Sorry if you hear the people outside, by the way. I have my window open because it is very hot, but if I turn on my fan, fan's even louder. Bah, bah. Okay. I know it's fibers, right? I have to get fibers. I have to make shit with fibers. I kind of want to see what this is. That's a bad idea. Hello? Hello. I'm not going down there. I'm stupid, but I'm not that stupid. Okay. But yeah, I did die one time before stream started, and that was because I spawned in the middle of the ocean, and while I was getting the last of stream stuff done, because I was getting the last of my stream stuff done, this thing came out of nowhere and just beat the absolute shit out of me. Oh, that's a dog. Oh, there's a couple dogs. Oh, there's lots of dogs and lots of animals. Ooh. Whoa! They're panting! Oh my god. This area is magical. Wow! Oh my goodness. Whoa! Okay. Speedy McGillicuddy, goddamn. Alright, I'm gonna look up. My browser's acting weird on my phone. Calm down, please. I'm just gonna look up the RLCraft wiki on my phone. Just for the getting started. So I don't remember. Gravel! I forgot. There is gravel. I saw some. Yes! Ha 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 ha. So what am I right-clicking? Nope, that's not. That's not it. Did I just beat it? I don't think I need to beat it with the rock, but I'm gonna beat it with the rock. Imagine me beating it with Dwayne The Rock Johnson in my hand, currently. Like, his whole body just in my hand. Did you know? I saw a TikTok that Debbie Ryan and Josh Dunn have a bust of Dwayne The Rock Johnson just in their house. Oh yeah, I'll definitely utilize your help when the wiki gets shit wrong. Or if I say something out loud that the wiki says to do, and you know it's wrong, just feel free to call it out. Please. Come here. Am I doing this right? And it's just being, like, annoying and not giving me what I need? Yeah, okay. I think that's- Whoa! That's a weird-ass walk animation. Not sure how I feel about that. Hiccup. Yeah! Hey, Looney. Thank you for the backup. Pig. They're so speedy! What for? Why? Why? Huh? Huh? Porque no los dos. No, no, no. No, 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 I don't like that. I'm just gonna... Why are you glowing? I'm gonna stay away from the glow pig. Is that a glow pig? What is that? See, even this pig agrees. He doesn't want me going near it. I won't go near it. Oh, I want to. I really want to. Bark, bark, my man. Bark, bark. Okay, okay. Calm down, please. That's... Chill out. He just sidestepped. he just full on sidestepped. I know, right? I found like the most friendly area in the game. Calm down. Calm down. Holy shit. Stop! Jesus Christ. Okay, you know what? You're gonna make my tinnitus 10 times worse. I hate all of you. You're a bunch of bullies. What the fuck? I think that grass creature was over this way. What? Shut up! Wait a damn minute. Hello? Knock knock. Shut the fuck up! Jesus. I didn't ask for your goddamn opinion. Holy hell. Damn. You'd think I was in politics. Men, am I right? Is this how Bella felt when she was in Twilight? Because she was friends with fucking what's-his-face? Would he just stay over and just howl at the moon all night? And she's like, bro, shut the fuck up. I am very sure about that. Okay. Okay. So this is gonna be our house for— oh, I missed this. This is gonna be our house for now. Shut the— oh my god. I'm gonna murder every single one of you, except for one. That one is gonna be the sole survivor, and he's gonna tell the tale of how I beat all of your asses. I know what that is. I'm pretty sure that's a rock. And not the country. Exactly. See, you get it. You know what's up. Why are there so many instances of the— okay. Why are there so many instances of the rock in this game? I feel like the developers had a thing for him, but just couldn't come out about it, you know? I'm gonna get a couple of these. Maybe they should have the bust from Debbie Rock. Oh, okay. I don't know what just came out of my mouth. Can I do anything with any of this? No. Well, I'm gonna make more. What can you do when you're being hunted for sport? Make flint. He's still out there. He's got fucking like claws. But like crab claws. That's just wrong. Nasty. Gross. Whoa! Look at me. Oh, that's cool. That's good to know. If I run out, but I have like a shit ton of flint for no reason, good to know. Hello? Oh, I changed that, didn't I? What did I change it to? You're gonna ignore a lot of what I changed these to because I changed them for now. Where is it? Admittedly, I'm not currently paying attention very much. I am zoning out a lot. Okay, well, I'll figure it out. Oh, I put my phone over here. Okay. How do I... Oh, you are the most obnoxious neighbors I think I ever could have asked for. And he's still out there. Look at him, he's trying to blend into, like, the trees. Trees don't have claws, stupid. They also don't have a nasty-ass face. Look at that. It's hideous. You're disgusting. You make me want to vomit. Yeah, that's right. Walk away, bitch. Walk away. I dislike you. I hope I'm hurting his feelings. I hope I'm bullying him so that he cries himself to sleep. I want him to feel bad for coming after my ass. Okay. Okay. So... I don't know if he's gonna sense me. Oh, I gotta admit, they make quite the chorus. Okay, I need like it said a hard block. I need a hard block. Oh, sticks. I left sticks out here. It's the rock! It's the rock! It's the rock! Put me down, 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 put me down. No, no, I will cut you, bitch. I will cut you. Fuck you. Oh. I ally with no countries. Suck my dick. Anyway. I have a bone now. I can I get a dog? Is that still a thing? Is that still the same? Can I get a dog? Dog? Wolfie companion, perhaps? That's what I want to get on fairly quickly, is the seasons. I don't know how quick they come on, but... Oh, it's raining. It's raining. It's pouring. I don't want to listen to this. I'm sorry. Ooh. Dude, this is my jam whenever I play GTA 5. If this is on the radio, I'll be driving on my little motorcycle and being like, woo! I'm like, hell yeah, bitch! I feel like the most badass motherfucker when this is on the radio. Alright, I'm making a break for it. So that I can find something hard. We're not talking about the fact that I just said that. Yes! Hello, chickabun. Chiminin. Okay. Oh! What the fuck? Yeah, come at me. EBB. EBB, you want some fuck? Come here, BB. Stupid. I would never fuck you. You're a tree. Stupid. Hell yeah. I want to get rid of this guy. From the safety of my home. Oh! Creeper. Blow him away! Listen, I may have fucked my house a little bit, but it's okay. Look at that. That looked weird. Hello? Whoa, okay. What's going on over there? I'm gonna have to figure out a way to fix this. You know what? Here. Oh, no. I forgot that doesn't work. Why am I cold? It's just rain! Oh my, you pansy. You little baby bitch boy. Oh my goodness. Are you really cold right now? It's rain. You're acting like it's snow. Calm down. Take a chill pill. Okay. Oh yeah, I need to do that. How do I get wood though? Oh wait, no, I can do that in my... Yeah. Duh. Herpaderbademonim. I can survive anything now. Except for maybe if this tree falls the wrong way. Bat takes off what it take off. Its shirt. Yeah! Gimme! Gibby! Spider? Spider. Skibber. Skimmer nimmer nim. Oh wait, this is how you do it, isn't it? Oh, my floor. I fucked up my floor. Hold on. I'm gonna fix it. Okay. This place is gonna look a little bit ramshackle, but you know what? Fuck you, okay? It's my house. Oh, right, it's the top. It's a top. I can't begrudge it. It's choices. It's preferences. Words escape me. I don't want more seeds, so don't even attempt to give me more seeds. Dirt. I am dirty boy. Dirty boy make dirty. Hell yeah. I can't relate. Perfect. Beautiful. See, we're getting places. They're not great places, but can I... I'm cracking the code! Okay, so we need a door, again. We need a door. And we also need to get on the food situation. I don't know why I'm trying to save it as if I'm not surrounded by wood. Cool. Fun. Fun, 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 fun. Yeah, we definitely need more wood though, because I need to fix that. That's gonna bug me. Get some more rocks while I'm at it. Rock! Wop, wop. Come here, bitch. You're my tree now. Yummy. That's a flower. Is that a rose, actually? Sorry, I'm trying to make sure there's nothing else that dropped. Is that a rose? I'm still so sad that they got rid of them. No, it's not. What is that? Ginseng root. What does that do? Bottle of olive oil makes olive oil ginseng root. Guess we'll never know. I'm gonna keep it anyway, because I am a little bit obsessive like that in games like this. Okay. Well, now we have ginseng root. Hot. So we need wood for the outside. Bitch. Motherfucker. Trying to escape? I don't think so. Slap this. Oh, so slap this shit down. Hours, I need more hours with you. Every time I hear this song, I think of the road trip I did with my family. Because this was one of the songs I had on repeat that summer. If I've never talked about that road trip before, I took a road trip with my 5 siblings and my stepmom and my dad down to Florida to visit our family, because the majority of my dad's family is down in Florida. And so we went down there to visit. And mind you, by the way, it was horrific getting down there. It's all of us stuck in a van all the way down to Florida, briefly stopping so that my dad can take little naps. But other than that, like, we didn't stop at hotels or anything. We slept in the van. And then we stayed in a timeshare that a relative of mine, I don't remember how she's related to me, but a relative of mine owns. My great aunt, my great aunt Cookie. Yeah, I have a great aunt Cookie and an aunt Candy. It's very, very good. But what do I wanna, oh yeah, I should get on this. But so we drove all the way down there. Oh, I forgot about the sleeping bag. I should do one of those. And then we drove all the way back up here after like a week, I think, of being down there. Oh, right. This is the version that still doesn't have that. But good times, good times. It was still really fun down there. It was like, it was humid, but because we went when we did, it wasn't as bad. We went to, like, I don't know the difference between which one is Disneyland and which one is Disney World, but we went to whichever one is down in Florida. We, like I said, visited family. I got to see my Nana for the first time since I was a baby, actually. My great-grandma. And then got to see my grandmother, my aunts, my cousins. Trying to remember what else we did. Oh, and where we stayed, there were like a bunch of animals everywhere. It was so weird. It felt like I was living in a zoo temporarily. It was so odd. But yeah, we drove back up, and then I immediately hopped in a car to drive to Montana with my mom, my now stepdad, and Levi, who you've seen on stream. So it was like 2 weeks of being in a car almost nonstop. It was horrendous on my body and very disorienting for my sleep schedule, but very fun nonetheless. I'm not the best person to be with on like a road trip, though, I noticed, at least back then. 'Cause like I didn't do road trips as a kid, so we didn't have to like keep ourselves busy for long periods of time or anything. So when I was in the car, it wasn't like me and all my siblings keeping each other entertained, or like me and my friend keeping each other entertained. It was me just nonstop listening to music and just being engulfed in my own little bubble of like music. And at the time I was still writing a lot. I'm trying to get back into writing books. But at the time I was writing a lot, so I was getting like a ton of different ideas the entire time. So I was just zoned out the entire car ride, getting idea after idea. I feel so bad for Levi, because Levi was probably bored out of their mind. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting there practically gone. Might as well not have been in the car. It also, like I said, didn't help that by the time I was with Levi, I had already been in the car for a long-ass time. So like my body was over it, my mind was mush. I was not doing great. Okay, I think I got quite a few rocks from around here, so I think I'm gonna have to... Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to make like a flint pickaxe if possible. Damn. You expensive motherfucker. What is this, right? Like this? Yeah! Cool. Dudes, I'm going home for Easter, over the weekend. I'm going home... Oh, okay, I thought it was a ravine. I was like, how did I miss that? Anyway, I'm going home tomorrow, tomorrow evening, / tomorrow afternoon, depending on when my mom gets out of work. And I'm gonna obviously stay home over the weekend for Easter and then come back, I think, like, Sunday night. I'm so excited to see my cat. I was binging, it sounds weird to specifically say I miss my cat, but I was binging these TikToks from this couple. I don't remember the couple, but they have a series because they're, I think they're wives, and they have this cat, that they got. And mind you, one of the wives has never had a cat. So she's navigating, you know, never having been around a cat or anything like that. And, that sounded like another rock. Anyway. But yeah, so she's navigating, trying to, like, be around this cat and not understanding a cat. Like, me watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's normal. Like, you know, the cat's headbutting her, like, rubbing up on her and shit, and, like, acting like a cat does. And she's like, I don't know what this means. What are you doing? You're acting weird. Stop it. And it's so funny to me, but because I was binging them, it made me miss my cat so much. They're very funny, though. Very funny TikToks. Okay. Let's put... I was gonna say, don't get all laggy over some fucking mud, dude. Calm down. Chill out. TikTok lately, I was looking at my music and this made me think of it. TikTok lately, throwing out some banger songs recently. Oh, there's a song that's supposed to come out the 7th. You've probably heard it. Let me see if I can find it. I sent it to Levi today because I was like, I literally listened to the song so many times previously and had no feeling of, like, I didn't like it, I didn't dislike it. It was like, okay. And then the other day, I was like, holy fuck, I need this song right now. Oh, Digital Silence by Peter McPoland. It's supposed to come out the 7th. It's a song where it's like, why don't you get it? Can't you get it? Understand. That one. There's another one supposed to be coming out soon. Very different vibes. But it's supposed to be coming out. I don't remember what the name is, but it's by Aniko. Her voice. Oh. Literal goddess. Sounds so beautiful. Now we have food. We won't die. Okay. Need more string. I'm gonna need more. More water. I don't have water. I'm gonna need water. Zombies. I was considering playing one of the zombie apocalypse mod packs, which made me realize I kind of, when I, you know, have money again, I kind of want to do, because I've done several SMPs and I've had several like casual modded SMPs, you know. Sorry if you hear it, by the way, I'm itching my wrist. But I really want to do like a zombie apocalypse SMP. Not anything crazy serious, but I want to do one with my friends because I don't know if anyone remembers it or if they watched it, but there was a guy, I don't remember his name because I wasn't really in it for him, but around the time when Minecraft roleplays were getting big, like I know around that time was when Minecraft Diaries got big, and like a year or two later maybe is when Sky's Minecraft hopped onto that trend. But he was doing it with, oh, it was a wolf. That did not sound like a wolf. But there was a series that was, I think, spearheaded by someone else. And he had also done other similar roleplay series that I thought were really, really cool because they each had like obviously they're roleplay series, so they had like stories to them, and there were a bunch of characters, and they were all like cinematic and everything. And I just remember one of them being a zombie apocalypse one, and I was like in love with that shit. Like salivating. Like, give me more. It was so good. I don't think if I watched it now, I'd be like as in love with it, but it was good at the time. Alright, let's see if we can do this. Let's see if it'll let me make a little farmy farm boy situation over here. Give me my dirt. Oh, it's Chiquitita. I thought it was, Dos Oruguitas. That song from, whatever the fuck it's called. Trippin' Super Psycho Love. How do I up my farming if I can't? Do I just keep using this? What? Ah! No! No! Bad rock! Bad rock! Bad! Bastard! No! No! Bad rock! Fucker! No! Oh! Want a bone? Broke my hatchet, bastard. You made me break my hatchet. I'm gonna sob. Is there a canteen? There is. Those cows. I don't want to kill them though until I have them in a pen and can breed them, because they're the closest ones I have. shear them. Are you telling me? Oh, yes. Thank you. You feel non-binary to me. I like you. Is there flint shear? There are shears. I have to go mining. Pig! I swear to God, if you fuck up my system, you're gonna have an issue. And the issue's gonna be my fist up your ass. You do not get to oversee this. This is my project. Go away. Go make your own project. Go make a house or something. I don't know. I didn't ask for you to follow me. I didn't ask for you to invite yourself over here. Oh. Once your own players with this ability will grow faster. Adds a small chance to gather a second piece of wheat when harvesting fully grown wheat crops. Ooh. Makes eating a passive task. I don't know if I'd want that, admittedly. You can't shoot cows. You motherfucker, you tried to lead me astray. I can't believe you. I trusted you. What? Undershirt. I'm wearing a tank top. Taking a fatal blow with the... Imagine an undershirt's what saves you. A tank top is what saves you. No, not even just a tank top, a wife beater. Okay, I'm gonna save whatever the fuck else, of these I have. I don't know how that works, but I'm gonna save it. I could have let you- you could have. You know what, I appreciate that. I appreciate you not letting me do that. I don't like the phantom bugs. I don't like the noise of bugs, but not having a bug. Unless it's that thing that's making the buzzing, which would be very odd. But yeah, I definitely have to go mining. I also have to adventure out a little bit. I tend to stick around the same area, especially because this specific game is so spooky. Or this mod pack is so spooky. I don't want to go far. Did that not look like he was just doing recon on me? Like he was about to go tell the others what he saw? That was the most spooky shit. I'm going home. I don't want to be near him. What the fuck? Unsheathing. Sword will automatically switch places with whatever the user is currently holding. Does not work if the sword is not in the main hotbar. That's cool. I'm gonna try one more time with this bone. Unless I'm wasting this bone. I might be wasting. What are bones used for in this universe? Oh, wow. Okay. And that's a dragon bone. I just want a bone. Gotta throw the S in there, Sammy. Oh, I need a foot. Oh, whoa. Oh, I thought you can make a bone. I was like reversing the system. Thought you can make a bonefish. No. You get a bone from a bonefish. There's nothing I can do with it. A meal. Fish bones. Yeah, I'm gonna go get this. That actually is technically correct. I would say reset it, but that is technically correct. Come here. Yeah. Yeah. Come here. Come here, my man. I don't know what I want to name you. What do I want to name you? I don't like your animation. You're funky. Not in a funky kind of way. Okay, yeah, I need water very soon. Come here, come on. Inside. There you go. Ugh, I hate your legs. I'm sorry, I'm bullying the shit out of you. You know what? No, fuck you, Semi. Just for that, I'm gonna die of dehydration. Promptly. I don't know what I want to name you. I'll have to think about it. Motherfucker. What a cheater. There we go. Okay. In game 2. Okay, hold on. Oh, what's this? Is this berries? Whoa! 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 Why did it change? Why did it change my... What? Why is everything fuzzy? Ah. Everything's fuzzy. Oh, dehydrate. Oh, fuck. I'm gonna die. Hold on. What was it? Level 3? Level 4? Fuck, I'm not gonna make it. I don't even know how I get more of those points. How do I get more of them? I haven't even set my spawn either. Oh no. Can I just drink from the water? Can I just like submerge myself? Well, that's cool. I look like I'm swimming. I mean, I am. That's cool. Actually, is there... I can use a water bottle for now. Sand! You're so close. Give me BB. Oh my god, this is trippy. Is this what they think it's like in real life when you're dehydrated? Because I don't think- oh, I don't think it is. Also, that's blinding. Jesus. I kind of want to eat the berry. Gotta save it. Papaute! What? I'm working on it, okay? Calm down. No. I figured this out myself. If it's this simple, I gotta figure it out. Okay. I live! Ute papa ute, ute papa ute, ute papa ute papa ute. It's gotta be, the way you're talking makes me think that there really is just something I'm supposed to be clicking. Do I just submerge again? And then click. I'll figure it out. For now, water bottles. It's making me thirsty because I haven't cooked it, isn't it? I was like, why does it keep making me thirsty? That's weird. Why else was there a filter on the canteen? Huh. Well, that's a that's something that I can't remember the word for. I got close, but I forgot it. Give me this. One more. Can I stop? I can stack them. We're gonna look this up again. I want to see if there's something easier. There's the bucket. Oh. I was like, what the fuck is that? That looks like C4. Am I supposed to drink C4? No. It's heavy bobber. Goddard. We're gonna call you Goddard. Like after the robot dog. Also, I can sleep now. I should do that. Because I had yet to do that. And I would have died. Okay. Oh, wait. Hello. I think I know how to do this. No, I don't. Never mind. There we go. That was like buried in there. Even though it is very dark in here, it also... I just need new glasses. I'm squinting all the time. How do I up that? Am I just gonna have to go kill things? I might. I might. I'm gonna kill some of these. Pickle biddos. Wop. Whoa. Tallow. I feel like it's an old candle thing. We are not listening to Owl City right now. Jorge Rivera Herons, let's go! Very different mood shift, but we're gonna deal with it. What are you? Whoa! Spastic! Calm down. Wisp. The will of the wisp. You're as old as he. Nope, that's not what it was. When I left for war. Come here, fucker. Actions haunt my. Ah! Endless pain. Close your eyes and spare yourself the view. How could I hurt you? He's not gonna come after me, right? I'm glowing! I have a new skin routine. Just trying to go home, even after all the years away from what I've known. Ah! I hated everything about that. I didn't know. Does a comet become a meteor? When does a candle become a blaze? When does a man become a monster? When does a ripple become a tidal wave? When does a reason become the blame? Okay, we're gonna keep our tallow and our extra meat in here. I kind of want to eat this berry. Insomnia? Does that mean if I tried to go to sleep within, like, that little bit of time, it wouldn't let me? That's kind of fucking rude. Fuck you, Grim Reaper. Ah! I didn't mean it! I'm sorry, okay? I apologize, alright? Is that what you want to hear? I'm sorry for killing the pigs. They looked delicious, Alright? I didn't mean to kill as many as I did. It just happened. What a bitch. Who knew the Grim Reaper was gonna be such a- oh! Was gonna be such an ass. Fuckhead. Damn. Knife. Okay, I need to figure this out. We need to figure out the leveling system. Ooh, a specialization. That's cool. Okay, so we need to figure out the leveling system and we need to figure out the water. So those are things. I'm gonna cheat a little bit and look at my phone for the first time in a couple minutes. Haha. Okay. Nice little shortcut. Why? Cool, cool. She spilled some drink on me. No, she tipsy. Oh, okay, that's part of the. Alright, alright. Yeah. I feel like I was right, but I can't tell. Is he still up there? Why? Go away! You absolute fucker. Is he gone? Thank God. Screw that guy. Fucking dick. Shit. Oh, I got egg. What was it? Why? Okay. I was just off. There we go. Fledgling. Is this a waste of a pick? Or a waste of iron? It might be. I'm gonna see if I can make a cobble pick first. Now she got a hand on my leg, got a seat so wet in my right. Ah! Fuck you, you missed, bitch. I hear you out there, fucker. Stop it. Get some help. Can I kill the Grim Reaper? Can I become the Grim Reaper? That'd be cool. It'd be easier if you weren't floating. I don't know why you feel like you have to be superior to me and float. Screw you, okay? Screw you. No, I'm taking my acorns and I'm fucking off. Go away. I dislike you strongly. I feel like I remember I need like matches, right? Or is it a different mod pack? There's Matchbox. Okay. I remember acorns. I had to fuck around with acorns a lot on Skyblock. That Skyblock mod I had a while back. Is he finally gone? He's not showing his face. I need to murder. Yeah. Are there any more? Or did I just kill off the pig population? Also, I'm pretty sure that there were cows over here at one point, and I'm not seeing any cows. Silex, I discovered nothing. I don't see anything. I'm a little concerned. Can I kill the deer? He's wily, though. I'm gonna lose my house if I do this. Yeah. Coyote? Whoa. Are there any animals over here I can massacre? I'm not gonna massacre that boy. He's a bit big. Chickens, on the other hand. Come. Whoa. I was like floating. Whoa. I have no idea if that works the same, if it like does more damage, but I'm gonna try. Whoa! Get absolutely fucked on, chicken. Oofa. I thought there was a skeleton, but nope. Although I don't really want to fuck with a skeleton, if I'm being totally honest. If I remember right, those guys are absolute ass in this game. I keep saying in this game, like this is a totally different game. In a way it kind of is, but like, grand scheme. Was it the- no, it's not this. Why did I pull that out? I swear to God, if me doing this in my house causes something to just show up in here, I'm gonna be very pissed. No, don't well me. No, 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 no. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Oh my god, a Kindle. I had a Kindle. Back when I had a flip phone, I also had a Kindle because, you know, I needed to have music. And I was also, like, needed to watch YouTube and shit. So, Kindle, and I would just take my Kindle fucking everywhere, dude. I had my Kindle in, like, school and shit. Ooh, Civil War. Good one. I know! Like, 90% of the time when people get it, they get it just to, like, have as a reading device, right? Or they, like even, my grandparents, they each, I think, got Kindles for Christmas one year from my mom, I think, and or maybe it might have just been my grandma that got a Kindle from my mom. But like obviously she's older, so she only used it for books. But like I feel like that's sort of what I associate it with now. Whereas back then, like it was essentially like a less cool iPad. Like it did everything the iPad did, but it didn't have like the iOS shit, so it didn't have like all that stuff on it. But I watched YouTube. I at the time watched Vine on there. I brought that everywhere and listened to music on it because on my flip phone, you know, with flip phones you had to like go through all that shit just to get music on there, so I wasn't going to do that when I just had my Kindle there. And the only music I had on it initially was music from when my parents had it, which was one pop song and one pop song and one other song. I don't remember what it was. But it definitely wasn't enough to like keep me interested. What's out there? Oh, it's The Rock. Yeah, like I listen to Spotify on there all the time. I also pirated a lot of songs on there too, cause like I eventually got irritated by Spotify's like ads, so I just downloaded all the music free. Good shit. Good shit. I used that Kindle for everything. I don't even remember what happened to it. I don't remember if I got rid of it or it broke or what. I'm assuming it broke. I don't know why I would get rid of it, but... Oh, yeah. Serpentine, think it's time. I'm running for the crown. Running for the... This movie was so good, by the way. I'm so sad that there wasn't another one. I wish that they, like, continued this universe. If you never saw this movie, I think it's still on Netflix. Bright with Will Smith. I thought it was really, really cool. Like, the whole story idea. Like I said, I just really wish that it could have had... I just really wish it could have had, like, sequels to it to continue on the story, because they, like, introduced so much in one movie that you were sort of left wanting more. I know what a kobold is, but at the same time I don't know what a kobold is as far as this game. Okay, I'm just gonna live with the fact that I have that. I don't know where the rock is. Oh. I walked right towards it. Fun. I also don't know where that kobold is that I apparently discovered. Give me that. Yeah! That's such a satisfying little noise. Hello? Hey, oh, you're a kobold. Hello? Whoa, you're funky looking. You're like a little mouse. Whoa! Look at you turn your head. You're cute. I like you. Also, this had like, to me, a fire soundtrack. And this was so good. Also, I keep making these as if I can't make cobble stuff, but... Is it gonna be an axe or is it gonna be a hatchet? It's gonna be an axe. Oh no, I have penis worms. Fuck. No, I have worms. Shit. I'm cheating and I'm looking up what I'm supposed to do instead of this bullshit that I've done. Because I've apparently given myself worms. Are you telling me? Are you telling me? That was not very pimp chimpin'. Bro, I died of worms. Shit. Oh, hello. Hey! Hey! What? You little thief! You rat bastard! No! No! That's right, fuckhead! Give me my shit. No, I'm cornering you. I'm beating your ass. Come here. Give me my shit. Little fuckhead. Give me that. Bastard. Thank you. Little fucker. Taking my shit. I feel like I'm missing something. I am missing something. Where's my axe, you fuck? There we go. I was gonna say. Bastard. Alright, well now I'm full on water. So I can't even test my hypothesis. At least I have an iron ingot now. Oh, duh. I leveled up my mining. I had to level up my farming is what I had to do. Yeah. Pretty sure. Certified Brahma. We're not gonna talk about it, okay? It's a live and learn type of moment, alright? I had to live and get worms to learn, alright? Sometimes you just gotta get some worms to be able to understand where your faults are. Coal. Yummy. Mmm. I can't relate. I understand completely. Having worms just really enlightens your perspective sometimes. It's very dark in here. There's a high chance that something's gonna show up if I don't get light in this bitch. But I don't particularly care. Rock. No, I won't be mourning. 'Cause I skipped on prom for Elvis Duran in the morning. Okay, I think that's everything from that vein. So let's get out of here. And smelt some shit. Make some torches. All that good. All that good. Lag. That'll be good to have. Yeah! In my time away, I've gone a little feral. You should have heard the noises me and my roommates were making earlier. We were just making weird-ass animal noises for no reason. I'm gonna get rid of... Oh wait, no, I need the matchbox on. Listen, it just happens sometimes, okay? Matchbox. Gimme. Gimme! Huh? Quoi? Pourquoi? There we go. The fuck, dude? Oh, duh. I'm sitting here trying to make sticks, but that's not how you get sticks. I can do it too, bitch. There's something in the sky. Deforestation. Expectations on the floor. Give me that shit. Yummy. I don't... I keep expecting it to be even, so as soon as I hit a new level, I'm good. But it's like, I think it's slightly off or something. Unless I'm stupid, which is very possible. Hello? It doesn't help that I have a light directly behind my computer. Backlighting is not my friend. Coal is, though. Isn't that right, buddy? Okay, so I just leveled up. Okay, so I am stupid. Certified. I need to make myself a certificate. I'll get it laminated and everything. I don't think I have a laminated machine. But libraries probably have those, right? I'll go to my local library. Get it laminated. Put it on the wall. Certifiably stupid. No. I couldn't tell if that was coal or not, but it's not. It's just a block I mined slightly. Okay, let's get the fuck out of this bitch. I'm sick of being in the dark. I'm not a bat. Oh, it's over here. I need the... What's it called? Come here. She's a lady. Oh, 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 she's a lady. Oh, did I break? Oh, I broke the dirt. A little lady. And the lady is mine. Okay. So, I'm gonna plant this. Not yet, though. Penis man. Vronk. Pachomp. Give me your gunpowder. Pew pew, motherfucker. Okay, we need some of this. Or actually, here, we'll just plant it here, I guess. Oh. Okay. Hey. I need to empty my inventory just a little bit. I keep looking at it again as if it's gonna change. It might. Oh, you can't have my chicken. My chicken. Back down into the mines, because the children yearn. Bandages. Okay. Hello? Let me see the iron. Ooh. What's it like outside? Ooh, it definitely was raining at one point. Among trees much? Oh my gosh, literally. Such a good game. I don't want to listen to Paint It Black. No. No Freddy Dread. No Mind Over Matter. No How You Want It. Oh. R.I.P. One of the members of this band passed away not too long ago, like a year ago. This is The Wanted. I had never heard of them before until my mom played them. Stop. Fuck you. Honestly. The audacity. I bust the windows out your car. Oh, my water. Okay. Let's test. It works. It still gives me thirst. And I'm assuming it'll still probably potentially give me the worms. But it's better than the bottles. Although I could probably use the bottles if I'm planning on going mining or something and I know I'm gonna be gone for a while. But I definitely have to get on the whole canteen situation. How do I make a charcoal? Oh, I could do this. I just need to find cows now because the cows just went missing. I don't know what I'm burping up. Probably water. Cool. Okay. Oh, that feels so good. Chip, 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 chip. Actually, I'm gonna gimbal. Hold on. Fernase. Fernakake. I'm gonna put my hair up actually quick before I go get a snack. Yeah, it definitely rained outside. I don't know if it's still raining though. I'll have to look while I'm getting a bowl. I'll be back. It is not, in fact, still raining. It has stopped. Good to know. Chip-a-dip-a-dip-a-dip-a-dip. Solid. Sour cream and onion chips, baby. I keep having to bend low a little bit because I've got my shades down. I don't have them all the way down because I have plants on the windowsill, and if I put it all the way down, there's the potential that if I have the window open, the shades will go whoo, and then knock off my plants. It also is nice because then I can look out there if I'm like, what the fuck is making that noise? you know? That was a big chip. Okay. Hoo-hoo, motherfucker. Another rock! What the fuck is that thing? What? I kind of want to fuck with it. Like, how bad? Like, can I take it with just what I've got, or is it gonna absolutely wreck me? Hello. Oh no! Does that mean it's gonna light me on fire? Ooh. Fuck, I have to up my defense. I definitely have to get back into 7 Days to Die. I always default to that game because I love the, like, little bit of strategy you can get going. I don't know. I enjoy it. Whoa. Man's descended. I like the looting, too. The looting, for whatever reason, is really calming. Just, like, going in, completely clearing out a place, and then just being like, yeah, this place is cleared, you know, like, marking it off on the map. It's so nice. No! No! Fuck you. No! Jesus. You're like the worst parrot ever. I kind of want to. I don't think I would want to play Sons of the Forest alone, though. So if I did, I'd have to make sure that someone I know has it so that we could play it together. Because I feel like it's funny on your own, but it's funnier with other people, you know? Ooh. Hell yeah. I mean, I know it's not meant to be a funny game, but let's be honest. Calvin is fucking hilarious. I've seen so many TikToks of his antics, of him, like, chopping down people's tree houses. So good. I've been watching Julian Solomita play here and there as well. I haven't watched in a while, though. I forgot I can sleep. I feel like it's better, too, because, like, Sons of the Forest and The Forest are both pretty spooky games. He was on fire. But yeah, they're both pretty spooky games. And, like, I can play 7 Days to Die on my own, but that's after a lot of practice. Typically, games that have, like, some sort of spook factor, I can't play on my own without being very anxious and on edge. So I feel like The Forest and Sons of the Forest are ones that I'd have to play with other people. Oh. Okay. There we go. Well, admittedly, I did practically nothing, but I'm glad I had that experience. Can that grow any faster, please? I really need matches. Maybe I should go exploring. Oh, was there another one? I probably shouldn't. Shut up. The rock again. Anyway. I'm not gonna go super far away just because knowing me and my sense of direction, I'll lose the house. But... oh, I don't know if I like this. Ugh, that felt weird. It felt like my feet were lead. What, toward, like, drinking water correctly? Ooh. Blitz! Thank you for the raid! Welcome in! What is this? Wind thistle. Ooh. Yeah, welcome in, everybody. We're playing some RLCraft. Are these mushrooms? They are mushrooms. Those are really cool. How was stream, Blitz? These guys are chill, right? I feel like I remember these guys being chill. Yeah, we vibin'. It's been good. I've only died once on stream so far. And it was because of some worms. Whoa! You know, some parasites. But, I'm doing pretty good other than that. I got a little house. I'm working on figuring out water. Things are going well. Is he golden? Is that bad that he's golden? Or are you chill? You vibing? Cool. Are you mean? Maka Alpha? Whoa, he's got horns! What? That's cool. That's sick. Are these big trees bad? Berry. Possibly. Okay, I don't feel like I'm ready for that. I don't even have armor. Heal me, pretty lady. Thank you. Alright, let's keep going. Let's go back to the house. I've essentially, I think, gone in a circle around the house, which was my plan, because I don't want to lose the place. Oh, there's a hill up there. I didn't know that. Come here! Fuck. There we go. Oh, that's fair. I should definitely write down the coordinates for the house. Okay, so the house is this way. Yep. Yeah! Yeah, I should definitely write down the coordinates. Holy fuck. Okay. Let's throw all this in here. Let's take the seeds. What does wind thistle do? Wind. Whoa. Ooh, advanced alchemy. Elixir of speed? Marshmallow root. That's cool. I'll save you then. Okay. Good, good. No worms. We love it. Okay. Coordinates. Your pen. Oh, or pencil. That works. There are no coordinates. What? I'm confused. you knew, you motherfucker. How do I find my way around them? Is there like a map? Well, yeah, but is there like, I thought there was gonna be like a special map. This isn't the, this is the. We're not listening to fuck Donald Trump. There is. Fuck, what's it? I know there's other words. Fuck. Okay, we'll leave it for now. I forgot about this. Thonk. Pointy stick. When I got bonked on the head by a stick. Wait, does that mean I have to get hit in the head with a stick? Tiny head Tato. Minor hat. Minor. They're underage. I'm a child. Ooh. The sprout one, that one's cute. I'm gonna have like a whole chest of these things. Backpack. Medic. Balmy. Becoming a Spartan. Jesus. Okay. Ah! Okay. Alright, we're not doing Santa. He's cute. I kind of like him. Protect your noggin. That one's kind of cool with my mask on. Dwarven minor beard. Whoa! I kind of like that one. It's stupid, but oh, there's hat storage. Perfect. Okay. That's so dumb. Okay, so those are the nose. We're wearing this one. That's so good. Oh my god. Okay. My ship! It broke a little bit. Is this it? Ooh, what's that? Oh, let's go. Big brain. I figured out the other word for it. Aha. Okay. What do I need for a compass again? Alright. Gotcha, gotcha. So it's gonna be a while before I get that, so I'm gonna have to just try to remember where my house is. It's gonna be tough, but I'll try. I mean, if push comes to shove, I can always die if I really need to get back to the house. None of the stuff I have on me is really, like, anything I can't replace. Ooh. Oh, no. Hysterical every day, all because I let your poison paralyze me. Oh, there's more over there. And a berry bush. Iron. Come here. Oh, hello. No, no, no. Oh. Am I chilly because I was in the water? Or is it getting cold out? For ransom, living in fear, living afraid, hysterical every day. Let's break in this bitch. I might be jinxing myself here, but I'm not doing too shabby. I thought I would have died at least 4 times at this point. I'm not counting that first death, since I literally could not defend myself because I was doing stream stuff, but not too shabby. Violet Wisp. Okay. Ew. No, you remind me of... instability. Okay. Ew. You're gross. Okay. Okay. When sneaking, be fired from a dispenser or thrown. Parts with matching elements can also be used to level pets who can... Wow. Turkeys! Gobble gobble! Bro, I found turkeys! I also found a dragon! I'd like to go home now. I don't know what the range is. I need to figure out what this is. What is this? Ash. That makes sense. You did this, didn't you? You did this. You up there. You did that. Oh, but what is that thing? Oh, I'm so curious. But big man in the sky. Okay, we're going home. I also don't want to get lost, and I'm already kind of far. Okay. Fuck. Melon. Melon be smellin'. Yummy. Oh. I'm using landmarks to find my way. Like all the little ruins, that's how I'm finding my way back to the house. I definitely have to plant some of these melons. Ooh, they're not seasonal? Interesting. Also, is there a reason that my stuff isn't growing? Or are things just slower? I haven't eaten berries yet. That's- it fills up my water! That's cool. Okay. So we have the sugarcane now. 8, 16, 24. I don't even know how to use this, truth be told. I think I just click the matches with it, right? Or click the click the torches with it. Well, one way to find out. I can hear them outside. If I can hear them outside, that's how you know it's loud. Cool. Oofa, this goes down. Okay. Need to remember to keep upping my defense. All the iron I'm getting will help a lot with the leveling. Same with the coal. Lava pops. Little sussy. Okay. Yeah, the lava popped its collar. It's trying to look cool. It's trying to be all suave, you know? It's on a date. There's an area up there. Is the lava up there? Or is that just because of one of my torches? It might be just this area. Yeah, it's this area, isn't it? I'm gonna light it up though. The fuck is that? Where is that? I better just be underneath it, because I swear to God, if it's down here and I'm not seeing it, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna frickin' lose it. Nope. Give me my torch back. Thank you. Nope. Butch. Butch. Okay. We're not doing too shabby. I'm gonna need to find one of those nymphs. Have her give me a little kiss on my boo-boos. It's raining again. It's been raining quite a bit lately, but I'm not mad about it. I honestly love... Yeah, but that's the thing. Okay. Well... I stood no chance. That absolutely beat my ass. That, it fucking took me to Pound Town is what it did. Oh my god. I hate everything about you. The new emote coming in. Oh, you are horrendous. Can I beat you up with my fist from here? Oh, not without incurring your wrath. That's okay. I'll beat you up as best I can. As long as I can keep getting down there and slowly beat his ass, that's fine. Listen, this Dommy Mommy isn't getting the best of this sub, okay? It's just not happening. And I say that because it seems like a Dom. It just gives Dom vibes. But like abusive Dom vibes, you know? Because a regular Dom would never just straight up kill you. I'd hope not, anyway. See, look at that. There we go. I'm gonna take a rock. Ooh, that's cool. I think that's everything. Maybe. Oh, my pick's about to break though. I got everything, I think. I'm excited. I got some shit. And I got slime balls. Alright. True. I will never obtain it in game. It's unobtainable for me. I said what I said. This is the smallest cave in the world. How am I getting lost? The shit. I was gonna say I could get rid of the rocks, but I'll keep them. I can't wait until it is obtainable for me. 24, 32. Okay. Hot. Okay. I need level 8 though, right? Yeah. I might as well just leave this stuff here. Need more sticks. Yes! All the sticks, baby! You're not a stick. Okay. Actually no. Let's go sleep and then we'll find the nymph and then we'll go back down. Trippy. Oh, pretty nymph lady. I'm kind of abusing my nymph privileges, if I'm being honest. That is a whole ass hot air balloon. Alright. Well, I'm back to full health, so I guess I don't need the nymph. Let's go back underground. Make sure that I got everything. This is all clear, right? Yep. Okay. Oh wait, no. I left some of it down here. Huh. Okay, maybe I won't have my torches in my offhand. Cool. I just want to take it in case I need it so I don't have to come back down here. I think that's everything to this cave. So let's dip. Make some more torches and then look for another cave. And smelt this iron. Of course. Ha ha ha. Torches. The clam. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Whoop. That was hot. Let me out. You can't keep me inside like that. Oh, now you're here. Oh, now you're around. It's okay. I love you anyway. Mwah. So this is the way toward the dragon. Yeah, it's over that way. Yeah, because here are the turkeys. Thought he might have been gone for a second. I don't know what the range is, again, so I don't want to... Well, had to face one at some point. Okay. I don't even know what to say to that. I'm in awe. Like, he ate and left no crumbs. You don't have a tail. Why don't you have a tail? Do some turkeys not have tails? Is that a thing? Why didn't I know that was a thing? I feel like I'm missing something. Probably am. Just okay. Just be enough. Oh. Ah! Oh! 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 Cool. I'm gonna need a rock. When in doubt, rock it out. I don't like that he's flying around. If he can not fly, that'd be great. If someone can just, like, temporarily de-wing him, that'd be beautiful. Give me my chicken. I also really need to make iron stuff. But I am assuming if I make iron stuff, like iron weapons, I'm gonna have to level up my attack probably, right? My stuff is over there, and I don't know where the nasty man is. Whoa! How do you... Oh, I was like, how do you one-shot me? But it's because that's how this game goes. Because... accurate injuries. It's okay. New rock. Ooh, what are these? I don't want you. Let me inside. What if I double fist? What if I have one rock in one hand and another rock in another hand? Maybe I'll do that. Let's do it. Let's rock this motherfucker. What the? What the? Throw these? Ooh, look at them. What button am I using? My rock back. This changes everything. I'm coming back with more rocks, motherfucker. I'm gonna rock your world. Get. Need more rocks. I'm gonna collect all these and then I'm gonna die and they're all gonna be down there. It's okay. Fuck. That's the bad thing, is while I'm holding Q. Fuck. Fuck. Okay. Fuck. Oh! Okay. 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 I just gotta assault this man. I just have to truly assault him. And by that I mean throw salt in his wounds. Make him go, ouchie! Take this rock. No more of this throwing business. I'm not in softball anymore. I kind of miss softball, honestly. Softball was fun. I throw axes, though. Only toy ones. If you know, you know. Okay, I'm gonna... bum rush. I heard the horn. Fuck, this way. I thought I saw something, but it was just the particles from my footsies. Fuck, give me the rock. I have no idea if actually beating him with the rock is dealing more damage. But I'm gonna do it anyway. You don't see me. I don't exist on your radar. I am non-existent, really. Oh, we're getting there. We're getting there. Come on. Oh, we're so close. I just have to avoid that guy. What is that, a kraken? I'm not here for you. I'm here for something so much more than you. You could not even comprehend the reasons I'm here right now. Okay. Yeah, well, I'm not trying to use it, okay? What even is this? Oh, healing salve! That's the thing I read about. What the- where'd my fucking- my rock. Standing in a sun-soaked street in the land of perfect. Yeah! Hate to say I told you so with such sincerity. Is my stuff gone? It looks like it. Well, that's disappointing. If I break this, will it be- no. Oh, I fucked. I fucked it. What the fuck? What the fucking shit? The fucking, ah! How do you sit there and say that this is real life and then make my screen break? Okay, well apparently I'm not missing anything anymore, so. Standing in a sun-soaked street in the land of perfect teeth. Hate to say I told you so with such sincerity. I really should go to sleep. It is nighttime again. Oh. Well, it's a good thing I have sticks. Yeah, let me go to sleep first. Fuck you and your leaves. Oh, I'm sorry, did you want shade? Never, bitch. You don't get that luxury anymore, motherfucker. Okay, I think I got all of them. Meat. Fun, fun. Okay. We're getting there. Whoa. Whoa. Someone killed a turkey. Did you kill the turkey? I don't like that he's over there, because that means he crossed the land to get there. And I'm on the land. Well. I might go the other way. Toward the hills. I think that's what the other way is, right? Whoa, floating rock! You know that one. It's a fucking special rock. A lucky rock. My lucky rock now. What's this? Marble rock. Well, I don't want that rock. That's not my rock. Oh, hello. You're on a mission, aren't you? He said stomp, stomp, stomp. I forgot that there's something at the bottom of those, so I could check those out if I wanted to. Sir? Hola, ¿cómo estás? Blurp. Zwap. Nothing? Oh. Oh, jeez. Another alpha. Ooh, what are these? Horsetail. Oh, this was the thing that was used in the recipe. Yeah, you don't look happy. You don't look good. I dislike you. I also dislike you. I dislike a lot of things currently. And some of them, namely, are in this vicinity at this very moment. But you know, it is what it is. Let me down there. Whee! Just gonna get some of this. I like the running water. Oh. That was a mistake. Oh, fuck. I'm just fucking it all up, aren't I? Get out of here. I can't reach. Okay, I need the dirt. Where'd the dirt go? Oh, no. I need that. There we go. Okay. Okay. Cool. Give me levels. Lip itched. This might be stupid, but I'm going. Uh-oh. Okay, we're good. Redstone! Abaddon! Oh shit. Yeah, let's get this the fuck out of here. Whew. Russet Aerosaur. Oh, look at your feetsies. It's little feetsies. I like the feetsies. Yeah, I'm not gonna go in there. I saw that fucking spawner. Oh, little house. Little house on the prairie. Oh. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm dying over here. Okay. Other house. I just have to remember that our house is in that direction, relatively. Essentially. Ooh. Knock, knock. I dislike that. Ooh. Shovel. Quality pokey. Alright, we have a bowl. I'm gonna take this chest, because I'm gonna need another one anyway. Oh, fuck. Give me the... Thank you. Block broken. What do you mean? Oh my god, what the fuck? Hello? Okay. Is there a lockpick? Lockpick. There is. Okay, we're gonna have to do the bobby pin lockpicks for now. The sticks. Summoning spirits. Turn the labels. If I just break this, will I get sticks? Because I don't have flint. No. What if I do it with a rock? What if I take... Oh, it does do it with a rock. Okay. Fuck you. Get out of here. What if I take one of those birds called rocks and use them? Will that work? Possibly. Catch me holding an entire rock bird, just smacking it against a leaf, viciously trying to get some sticks. Mean ant. Mean. Ow. Fuck you. Bastard. Ooh, pumpkin seeds. Okay. Well, I'm gonna keep doing what I was doing, and I'm not gonna go in that direction anymore ever again. I'll make a mod for that. Hell yeah. Was it this one? Oh yeah. I got it. Okay, I don't know how to lockpick. So we'll see how this goes. How do I even do this? Oh. Oh. Okay. We need more sticks. Right? No, we don't. Yes, we do. I need sticks. It's a good thing I have rocks. Whoa. Okay. So the weird spidery thingy was over that way. And I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing a bar for it anymore. Shush. Invisible birds. I'm not trying to plant it. I'm trying to get sticks. There's a difference. Ooh, I can see the stuff on top, the loot. Ah! Fuck. Where's your hotbar? Jesus. Your hotbar? No, that's not what that is. Hell yeah, the true victory here. Did I drop any more sticks? I need more. Give me as many sticks as you possibly can. Pictures on her phone. I'm not coming home. Yes, sticks. Okay. Tell me where you've been. Okay, we have 2 bobby pins. Okay. Fuck. Okay. Fuck. Okay. I'm getting it, I think. Kind of. This is tedious, though. I'm gonna have to get rid of this entire tree stick population. This tree's gonna be like, no, where'd my sticks go? And I'm gonna be like, yeah, I fucking took them and I made bobby pins out of them. And then I broke said bobby pins, breaking into a lock that I probably don't even need to break into. But it's the thought that counts, and I'm learning. And you know what? Learning is important. So, fuck you, tree, okay? Fuck you in this hypothetical universe where you're getting mad because I took your sticks, okay? This is important to me. More important than you and your sticks. That was a lot. I apologize. That got heated. In this hypothetical universe where the tree gets mad at me, I got really pissed back. Hi, funny. What a time to come in. Fuck, so that's not it. I'm sexy. What is this rant on sticks? Ooh, and I get the lock. That's cool. It literally all started because I thought of this hypothetical universe where the trees that I'm taking these sticks from get pissed at me for taking their sticks. And for some reason, I just decided to go off and get really pissed at the trees. You know, these hypothetical trees. You're so cute. What is my opinion on... True, I did run into the Ent. You know what? I feel like the Ent did it. I feel like the Ent is the reason I got so mad. What is my opinion on unscheduled colonization? I feel like that's a little bit rude because it's unscheduled, you know? Like, what if they're doing something important and then, boom, they're being colonized? But I get it, you know? There's no good time for colonization, so I kind of understand. You're nasty. Literally eat the gunk between my toes. You're so gross. Yeah, give me this fucking meat. I'm gonna chomp on this when I get home. I'm gonna cook it over the open fire and think of you. You absolute rat bastard. Unbelievable. Okay, there's the tree. I think I'm going the right way. Into my house? Oh, wait. Alright, good night, Semi. Thank you for hanging. I will try not to get KFC'd. A rabbit-like meat. It's moving! Ugh, never mind, I'm not eating it. Oh, ew. Gross. I kind of want to go get another dog. Can I use this? Or will me using it mean that, like, I have to fucking unlock it again? Because I don't want to. I know how to do it now, but I don't want to. Alright, let's place these down, I guess. This is my house. Forever, I guess. I've decided. Somehow. Oh, fucking. Where do you put a cauldron in a house this tiny? I don't know. Here. It's my bedside table now. When I have to put my keys down before I go to bed, because I, for some reason... because I, for some reason, just have my keys on me when I go to bed. Thank you. What is outside? Jesus. What is that? Oh, it's another will-o'-the-wisp. But when I go to bed and I have my keys in my hand, because for some reason I've decided that I need to keep my keys on me at all times, I'm gonna put them in the cauldron, and then when I have to wake up and I'm fumbling around for my keys last minute, I'm just gonna go... I'm not gonna be able to find them because the cauldron's so deep, I'm gonna have to get up and practically put my entire body in the cauldron, and it's gonna be like a bath. That's my vision. Hence, cauldron bedside table. Okay. I still need to get to level 8. Yeah, I hear ya. Well, I'm the type of guy who likes to settle down. Oh! Bones. Yes. Please, some more dogs. I hug them and I squeeze them. They don't even know my name. They call me the Wanderer. Yeah! Rock! 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 I am not allying with Iraq. I refuse. Come here. You're so fucking creepy! For what reason? Bastard. Anyway. And I'm as happy as a clown. What are you looking at? Goddard. Oh, it's the fucking rock again. What the fuck is his problem? So spastic. Oh. Hello. Get out of here. I don't know what awaits me down there, but that I could probably go to that underneath area that I went to before. You greedy bastard. Holy shit. 5 of my 8 bones? Are you kidding me? See, look at this guy. He took 1 bone. You're just greedy. You're a greedy, greedy gremlin. Come on. Both of you. Alright. Come on in, fellas. We gotta name all of you. No, come on. It's further in. Thank you. Yes. Okay, we gotta slide you over because you're taking up a lot of space right now. All right. So guys, this is Goddard. You're gonna be named Balto. And what's another good movie / TV show dog? You're gonna be Rough Ruffman. We have Goddard, Rough Ruffman, and Balto. Although, is Balto a dog? I don't remember. Balto's like a wolf or something, isn't he? I never watched that movie, admittedly. Okay. Yeah, there's gotta be a reason that my stuff over here isn't growing. I don't know what the issue is. Go put some torches. Maybe that's the problem? I don't know. I think I saw another dog over here. I'm gonna grab it. Yeah, there you are. Sir. Yeah. Okay. So, let's see if there are any more dogs, because I have one more bone. I'm gonna find more, but I don't see. Oh, wait, actually. Dog. Dog, 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 dog. Oh, he didn't want it. That's okay. Alright, let's get you inside so you can meet the others. My house is getting very quickly very full of dogs, and none of them have different colors. So that's a bit of a problem. Alright, come on. Where's... Oh, there you are. Okay, come on. Get in here. Get in here. Come on. There we go. Okay. Sit down. Slide you here. Alright. So, this is Balto, Ruffman, Goddard, and... Oh, what should we name you? Fuck, what should we name you? Clifford! Cool. Oh, got stuck. Okay, well, we need different collar colors, so let's get some flowers. There we go. Got some yellow. I know there were some pink flowers over that way. Ooh, actually, we can make orange. We get another yellow flower. Oh, here we go. Okay. So we're gonna have yellow, we're gonna have orange, we're gonna have red, and I'm gonna try and get pink. Yeah, here we go. Perfect. Okay. Ooh, and I can dye my bed. Okay. So, who's gonna be who? Goddard, I feel like should still be red because Goddard was our first dog. Let's have Ruffman be orange. We'll have Balto be pink. Yeah, and then we'll have Clifford be yellow. Does it make sense? Not particularly. Do I care? Not very much. All the meats down here, since I apparently have a lot of them. No, you do not. Don't look at me. You don't get raw flesh. Oh, I was like, why can't I eat this? Because it's food. And even though it helps my water, if I'm high on food, I can't eat it. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna write down their names so I don't forget, because I'm the asshole that would forget. Red, Goddard, pink, Balto, yellow, Clifford, orange, Ruffman. Beautiful. Okay. I still need to look for like another cave. Actually, can I level this up by any chance? No. Oh, wait. I have enough iron, so I can make a bunch of iron stuff. Cool. Alright, see if we can find a cave. So dance, dance like it's the last night of your life. Life will get you right. You know what? Let's make some blocks. Make some ladders. And see about potentially going down underneath that area from before. Oh, wait. Here. Dirt. Where? Did I die with it? No, I didn't. Here it is. Getting sticks is probably the most tedious thing ever. Now that I've said that, there's probably something way more tedious in this game, but... Okay. I have blocks. I have ladders. Go to sleep quick. Cool. Holy fuck. Why is it all the way over here? Whoa. What the shit? Okay. Oh, shit. Whoa! Witches in this game are fucking serious. She just hit me with lightning. What the shit? Okay. We have 10 rocks. Let's get a little bit more. Hopefully... Oh. Hopefully going down there. That looks a lot like an alien from a movie. Anyway. Hopefully going down there I can throw these at the witch. She's like destroying everything down there. I kind of want to take my wolves with me, but I don't want them to die. Fuck, how do I do this? I don't know where the thing went. Yeah, see, she's like destroyed the ladder. I want to see something. If I make an iron sword, I'm assuming I can't use it. Yeah, I need attack level 8, and mine's a level 1. But okay. Let's do this shit. I don't know where the alien looking thing is. I don't know where it went. I'm angry, but I still love you. Pills and potions, we're overdosing. Sorry, I'm just moving my overlays quick. There we go. Much better. Kill a skeleton with an arrow for more than 50. I did not do that. Unless I like knocked its arrow back toward it. I didn't shoot an arrow. Pills and potions, we're overdosing. I'm angry, but I still love you. Oh, fuck. I can't, like, get my bearings down there. I have the blocks, though. Maybe I should block myself into a corner. Maybe I should just, like, find the blocks in my inventory and just do that. That might be a good idea. Whoa. Okay. Fuck, I'm trying to get my stuff, but it won't let me pick it up. Shit. Pills and potions, we're overdosing. I'm angry, but I still love you. Okay. Cool. So we have blocks to block ourselves in. We have a sword. Can I make a shield? Is that a thing? It is. Oh, but I need defense level 12. Fuck. I'm only at defense level 8. I love that I got all the way up to defense level 8. Excuse me, just so I could wear my armor. And my armor's chilling down there with them. See, all those fucking... I'm trying to think of what to do. What? Defense level 8. Oh, I'm at defense level 7. Who gave me an iron hoe? Which one of you motherfuckers gave me a hoe? Which one of you hoes gave me a hoe? The Geist? What the fuck is the Geist? The taste, searching for Nirvana. What is it then, if not weather? I'm not even down here and they're destroying shit. I'm just gonna give up and not go down there anymore, I think. That is not a minecart. What is it, blocks? No. I'm trying to turn it down because it's so fucking loud. Hopefully that'll help. Jesus. Okay. Well, that's a place to stop, I think.